everything flows. And natural resources come in flows. And they've been flowing for quite some time in a resilient way. What is resilient? Well, after a shock, they can go back to equilibrium. Until the big shock came in. What's the big shock? It's us. It's people. Here we go. And when we came in, sustainability, when we came in, resilient went out the closet. Why? Because we started polluting. We started changing the climate. We started losing biodiversity. We started having problems with all of our resources. And the big issue is that depletion of these resources is not really reversible. So can we go back? Can we go back to a resilient way and mode of living? Let's see if we can go back. And I'm trying to follow my slides because I want our choice to come in. And here is our choice. Here is our choice. We are here, and we can either go or continue to be on our self-destructing way, or choose to become sustainable, or choose to go back to a situation where the shock of ourselves does not destroy our nature and, in consequence, ourselves. We need to get out of the self-destructing rotation. Did we decide that we want to do it? Well, in September 2015, I was in lovely New York, myself and a bunch of hundreds of scientists, together with some less important people, 193 heads of states, and we renewed our commitment to becoming sustainable, to use our natural resources sustainably in a way that allows the current generation to meet its own needs without reducing the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And these new commitment comes in Agenda 2030 of the United Nations, and this Agenda 2030 talks about many things, most of them about sustaining the environment, clean air, clean energy, good water, oceans that are not polluted and viable. And some less famous people than us are also embracing the idea, and they are diffusing it when they are getting their little Oscars. So let's see if we are going to make it, if we are going to be sustainable. Can we be sustainable? And why am I here? I'm an economist, right? Why am I here? What does economics has to do with all this? Well, economics is about allocating scarce resources, stocks and flows of resources over time and over space and over people. And allocating these resources in a way that maximizes social welfare. And in economics, there exist these creatures that are called natural resource, environmental, and energy economics, like me, that are trying to model the interaction between people and nature. They are trying to understand what benefits people get from nature, how to value these benefits, and then develop instruments, development paths, policies that allow us to have an interaction between nature that is not self-destructing, that is not catastrophic for the people, for the society, for the environment, over space and over time. So we are trying to maximize social welfare. And so what is social welfare? Well, it's composed of value. Value that people place on goods and services and flows of natural resources and flows of services that come from our ecosystems. So it's quite tricky to do a sustainable plan of environmental resources, a sustainable plan of the interaction of people with the environment. Why? Because you have to value these weird species that are called ecosystem services. And these ecosystem services come in different categories, and some are quite obvious, provisioning services, the water we drink, the food we eat, and so on. But some are less obvious, like regulating services from the environment to the people that regulate the flows of natural resources on which we base our living, and cultural services that are very important for the sustainment of our societies and our social networks, and also habitat services, all our biodiversity that really keeps the ecosystems in a functioning form that can support life on Earth. So our job is to find the value for these ecosystem services. And it's difficult because some are obvious but are not exchanged, and some others are not obvious. So information is one crucial other flow that comes into the future. That's why Leonardo DiCaprio is doing a good job. We need to know that we consume these services, because these services are coming to us without being able, people are not really able to understand the flow of these services and to understand how they are important for their own sustainment. So let's see how we think in economics. And most of you, I expect, will feel familiar with all this. We have markets, and markets make value explicit. Why they make value explicit? Because there, the supply of a good, of a flow, of a stock is explicit. So you can get a particular quantity at a particular price, and you also have the demand that is also explicit. You are willing to pay something in order to get the opportunity to consume or experience or use as an input in your production a particular quantity of a natural resource, in our example. But what is very, very difficult for natural resources? We cannot get this little Mr. Price. We cannot see him. We cannot see him anywhere. Why? Because the supply is so difficult to calculate. What is our supply of water? Is it water in the river? Is it water in the sea that we can desalinate? What quality of water? Polluted, clean water? Water in the aquifer? How do you sum all this up? And how do you make them available? What kind of technology do you need? And then demand is hidden. It's hidden. Why? Because these resources are open access. They are open access. You can consume them. You can hide your willingness to pay for this good, and nobody can prevent you from depleting them. The end result, no market, value becomes non-explicit, price is not there, everybody consumes above their the capacity that is optimal, that they are actually valuing the particular good and service, and at the end of the day, we lose everything. We lose everything in a very irreversible and detrimental way. Why? Because we overexploit, we get less pleasure, less utility, less happiness from each unit we exploit, because we consume more quantity than we should, and at the end of the day, we leave no resource in nature for our neighbor, for future generations, for other countries, and so on. a definite misallocation. And here comes what we do, what I've been doing for the last 20 years with passion all over the world. We are trying to get Mr. Price for natural resources. We are trying to value how much people benefit from using ecosystem services, obvious and non-obvious ecosystem services. We are trying to retrieve the value of our resources and make this value central in the allocation of these resources and make society understand this value, pay for it, and use it optimally like any other good that is scarce. And this good is not only scarce, it is irreversibly scarce. If you lose it, you cannot reproduce it, at least exactly in the same form as it is today. And value is a tricky thing to actually calculate. Why? Because we have the direct value, which is provisioning services, and sometimes it is also traded in markets, water, food, fish that I eat and drink, but also indirect use values regulating the flow of services of nature, and then option value, willingness to pay in order to sustain the choice in the future should the resource become scarce, polluted, or the demand becomes bigger because of increased population. And not only we have the use values, but people are actually willing to pay for non-using the environment, but preserving it for the future as a bequest value for future generations, and also because they understand an intrinsic value for the continuation of the existence of the environment. And let me tell you, it's tricky to try to measure all this. It's tricky to measure it, it's tricky to make it explicit, it's very difficult to construct instruments and development plans that integrate this value and make people pay, make society understand and pay, recognize this value, and allocating resources by integrating this understanding of this value into their allocation and grow into their allocation of resources and into their management plans and into their development plans, the countries, the world as a whole. So we are looking for lady value for every resource, for every individual, for every spatial unit, for every point in time until infinity. We are talking about infinite time horizons. There is no end to this game. We need nature to be there forever, or else we cannot be there. This interaction cannot end. It's a challenging opportunity. And I say opportunity because you should come to my lectures and you will get excited and interested and invest in this kind of research. So if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So we need to measure lady value and integrate it in our analysis and management plans. And thank God for me, my research group, other environmental economists, been working for the last 50 years trying to develop methods that allow you to retrieve the hidden value of ecosystem services and mathematically model the interaction between ecosystem services and society and the economy, even financial markets. Do surveys in order to retrieve attitudes and awareness and how people think, and also influence awareness and increase the diffusion of information about all these very complicated and quite scientific issues, and then model it econometrically and apply the econometric model to different case studies in order to come up with the value and then construct a plan of how to allocate resources over time, over space, over people. And we can do this. Seems easy, right? No? Yes? Well, not very easy, information hungry, science hungry, but we are making lots of progress. And basically, if we want to schematically show what we do, we have layers of information on nature and society and technology and economy, and we use all these layers under different climate change scenarios and socio-economic scenarios in order to retrieve the value of the different natural resources over time. And of course, this value, as we forecast it over time, is going to be quite loaded with uncertainty, because as you move from today until tomorrow, and after 100 years, and after 400 years, and to the infinity, the information that you need in order to come up with a distribution of an optimal distribution that maximizes social welfare, after integrating all these layers of information, is huge. And uncertainty increases. So it's not an easy task. We need to become precautionary. We need to make sure that we understand that the future ahead is becoming more and more uncertain, and our analysis all flows into a cost-benefit analysis and decides on some management plans, but these management plans need to be revisited and revised and refined. So it's a constant struggle, it's a constant updating, is a constant challenge, but it can be done. Let me show you an example. We've been trying to construct optimal multi-use platforms for managing oceans. And this was a 20 million, let's say, project with 3 subcategories from the European Union that we coordinated, try to understand where to locate multi-use platforms that produce clean energy in the ocean, use ocean space for aquaculture, use wind, waves, and sun, and they are also regulating marine transport and wild fishing. And we came up with some designs. Our engineering team, let me tell you that more than 200 scientists were working on all this, and our university was managing the economic side of the story, the economic side of retrieving the value of all these resources and making management plans and deciding where to allocate and where to place these offshore ocean platforms. And if you look at this PowerPoint, you will see that the cost-benefit analysis of the placement and the design of these offshore resources showed one crucial thing, that market benefits exist because you sell the energy that you produce, the clean energy from waves and the sun and the sea, but huge non-market benefits exist as well. Benefits that have to do with less intrusion of the environment, less intrusion on marine biodiversity, less CO2 emissions, but the biggest value of all, and I've lost the slide about that, but let's see, I can tell you the biggest value of all was the value of correct placement of the offshore platform, the correct management of ocean space. the non-market value of not destroying ocean space like we did on our land is 10 times as big as any financial and non-financial environmental benefits that come in from huge investments in the sea. So what is important to understand is usually in environmental economics, you cannot measure that makes the change. And we can measure it now. This is my message. Hidden benefits and costs that are not traded in any market are measurable now. And we've been measuring all this, and we've been deciding and changing all over the world one other value that is crucial for this measurement. And this is the way you discount the benefits in the future for long-run projects. I'm going to go away. I can never be economic with regards to my time by showing you the map of the world and where we have actually applied projects the last 20 years. My team has applied projects all over Europe, but all over the world, managing natural resources and building clean energy technology constructions. Thank you for your patience.